low.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Fair
Fair
enough.
enough. Yeah.
But one of our teams did make a trade. One of our teams did make a trade here. My team made a trade. And it was sending Emmanuel quickly, RJ Barrett, and the Pistons second round pick for this year. So probably at worst the 32nd pick in the draft. Um, in exchange for OG Anunoby, Malachi Flynn, and Precious Achuya. I want to know as a Knicks fan, what do you think about the trade?
Knicks fan. I'm not the Knicks fan. You're the Knicks fan.
As a Knicks fan, I'm curious what you think as like a third party.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, third party opinion. Let's go. So with this trade, I feel like it's kind of a win-win for the Knicks. You drop off Emmanuel quickly, which they weren't gonna pay him anyway. I'm pretty sure they declined his player option heading into the season. So to drop Emmanuel quickly off a guy that you are not gonna pay, and also with RJ Barrett, who I don't know about you, Matt, has been a net negative for the
Hmm.
Knicks this season.
Hmm.
There has been little to no trades where Barry showed on the court where he could contribute towards winning basketball. And so you trade those two guys out the way, plus not giving up any high assets when it comes to draft picks for a wing in OG Anunoby who has great length, is tall, can guard more dominant wings like a Jason Tatum, like a Jimmy Butler in a playoff series if they were able to play against the Celtics or Heat, one of those teams. And with an Anunoby offensively, you get a solid catch and shoot guy. He's going to make the fundamental plays. He's going to make the sound plays. And defensively, while he is not an elite defender, he's not elite wing defender. He is still very solid enough to contribute on that aspect of the court.
Yeah. All right. As an Knicks fan, from just the players in this package, the player pool, the Raptors won this trade. I think. I think the way quickly has been playing, he was our third best player. Um, I think RJ is kind of interesting. I heard I was listening to Zach Lowe the other day, and he said RJ Barrett's like a jack of all traits, but a master of none. And I feel like that's a very good way to describe RJ Barrett because he might do a little bit of everything on the court, but I don't think he's like elite at everything. But I do think that Knicks fans were finally starting to realize like, hey, RJ's not gonna hit this all-star potential, but he will be like probably an above average wing in this league. And I felt like Knicks were kind of getting comfortable with that, and then they made this trade. But I do think we did get the best player in the trade. I do think OG fits Tibbs' system as well as what Jalen Brunson needs much more. And to me, I think that if Knicks are truly looking to get that star piece, I think OG fits better than what Emmanuel Quickly or RJ would have done.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this trade, what OG Anunoby reminds me of on a
Hmm.
Tom Thibodeau coach team is Luol Deng
Yeah, I saw
back
that. I
in
saw
the
that.
Chicago days, with him alongside Prime D Rose, Joakim Noah, Carlos Boozer, guys like that. Very successful teams, by the way. And those two guys, both have the same similar traits when it comes to being a defender, being a solid catch and shoot guy, and even
Hmm.
doing a little bit of playmaking. Well, not as dominant, but still tolerable enough for the position.
Yeah,
So in a Tom Thibodeau scheme, yeah, Anunoby's the perfect fit.
yeah. The one thing I say I will, or the one thing I have noticed in the two games with him so far, one, we might be getting the Josh Hart treatment because if you remember last trade deadline, we traded for Josh Hart, and the next one, like I think it was 8 or 9 games in a row. And right
Mhm.
now we're on a 2 game winning streak, so fingers crossed that didn't just jinx us. But we beat the
Mhm.
Timberwolves and the Bulls so far. Um, but the thing I've noticed when watching the team so far is it just looks like we're missing a ball handler, right? Like
Mhm.
RJ was obviously playing some or playing a little bit of point forward, and Emmanuel quickly often had the ball in his hands, and so now it really is the Julius Randle show. Now it really is the Jalen Brunson show, and I think once Malachi Flynn comes back, that might change a little bit. But it just feels like we're missing something on the court in terms
Yeah,
of
and
like
I
shot
do.
creation, because it really is just like Brunson and Randle save us right now, which they've been able to do.
Mm. Yeah, I do agree with you on that as well, Matt. Obviously, when you ship out two of your best shot creators, scorers, and ball handlers, obviously they're gonna leave out a very massive hole. So at this point with the Knicks, you look at their bench right now. You said Malachi Flynn. I don't expect a lot of good things out of Malachi Flynn at this point. I'm sorry. And then again, Miles McBride, which he's a primarily defensive guy, and other guards on the team too, like
Quentin
Josh
Grimes
Hart,
doesn't ball handle.
Yeah, he doesn't ball handle at all. He's more of a 3-and-D wing, DiVincenzo. So there is a massive hole on the Knicks right now with this trade when it comes to shot creation and playmaking on the perimeter.
Yeah. But I will say one thing I do like is just kind of the salary dump. You mentioned Emmanuel quickly. I don't think we're gonna retain him in free agency. I also don't think that Emmanuel quickly was ever gonna blossom into the player that he could be, just with Thibodeau the way he is and the way that we feed Brunson. I don't think a lot of people have talked about this, but the way that Quickly had played for us in the playoffs the 2 previous years, or the 2 previous times we had made the playoffs, I think he kind of left a bad taste in the organization's mouth. Obviously against the Hawks, like that was rookie season. Maybe you want to give it some time, but last year against the Cavs, he didn't really do too much. And then in the Heat series, he was basically non-existent, where we were having to have Evan Fournier come on and give us playoff minutes just so we could get a bucket off the bench. So I think the playoff miscues and the playoff woes kind of led to this as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Evan Fournier, what are y'all gonna do about him?
He's the interesting player because if the Knicks are trying to make a trade, this is also the thing I didn't like about the trade was I feel like the Knicks are a star away. I can admit. I think Brunson's very good. I don't know if he's a 1A, but I know you need like a top 10 player to win in the league. And so I do think the Knicks need a star, but we also just traded our 2 best assets in RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. Because now we're left with like Quentin Grimes, I guess, because this Quentin Grimes is kind of like disgruntled. Maybe Dante DiVincenzo, but like the Villanova boys are best friends. Maybe you don't want to break that up. But it's like we don't really have a lot to trade anymore for a star. And so you have to throw Evan Fournier to a team just to make the money work because I think he's making close to 20 a year. But I mean, Evan Fournier is not like this valuable asset, not even close.